You're listening to Podcast PXN, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. Let's do this.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Podcast PXN, episode 87. I'm Roshan, aka Roro, and I'm joined today by the pride of PlayStation, Sean Babiak, and Dan the Halo Man, Daniel Prindle. How are you guys doing today?
I'm here.
Fantastic. Daniel's kind of here.
He's here, as he said, in spirit in the pre-show.
Yeah.
But big thank you to everybody else who is here watching live and listening. You could find us every Wednesday recording live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube and on Twitch. Just search up Podcast PXN and you shall find us. The topic of the show today is the Summer Games Fest kickoff that was announced today. We're going to talk about what we may expect to be there and just how we feel about Summer Games Fest as a whole this year, what we might think it may turn out to be. But before we get there, we always start with the PXN news of the week, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. And we're starting off with some Starfield news being reportedly an Xbox exclusive. So I'm reading from Windows Central. They say Starfield is a bit of an enigma. The game is known only by its teaser alongside a trickle of information here and there from occasional interviews. What we do know is that Starfield is a single-player sci-fi RPG built on a new version of Bethesda's creation engine, previously used in the modern Fallout and Elder Scrolls games. One of the biggest burning questions of the game remains the state of its potential exclusivity, given Microsoft joined forces with Bethesda earlier this year. And Mr. Jeff Grubb on Twitter, who is, as he was notably noted or cited as industry heavyweight on King Kind of Funny earlier this week, he's been a pretty outspoken game industry journalist or content creator, I guess, sharing a lot of stuff around the game industry that has often been right. He has his sources, so this is why this is pretty big news. He says Starfield is an Xbox and PC, is exclusive to Xbox and PC, period. This is me confirming that. Grubb was responding to calls for clarity after some had suggested he wasn't sure on the status of Starfield's exclusivity while guesting on a podcast earlier that week. Starfield also saw a few propounded screenshots and artwork pieces leaked recently, supposedly from earlier bits of the game. But yeah, this is really interesting. I remember us having this conversation when Bethesda was, acquired by Xbox, or Microsoft, I should say, whether or not these games are going to be exclusive, or some of them are, or not all of them. And I was of the mind that no way that all of these games are going to be exclusive. It was just hard for me to imagine that. But at the same side of that coin, Microsoft spent a pretty penny to acquire Bethesda, so why wouldn't they want that? But Daniel, what do you think about Starfield being reportedly exclusive on Xbox?
Yeah, I think that, honestly, that's a pretty big deal for Xbox to get that as an exclusive because, this is Todd Howard's team. That should never be taken lightly. Fallout, Elder Scrolls, that's them. So I'm excited to see what the heck Starfield's going to end up being. They haven't put out a game since Fallout 4. And yes, Fallout 76 was loosely tied to Todd Howard, but he was just executive producer on that, essentially just overseeing it. That wasn't the main team that was developing that. But yeah, I'm very interested to see how Starfield ends up turning out. I definitely want to hope that it's as good as Fallout and Elder Scrolls in a space-like setting. I think that would be awesome. But I think this is definitely in line with what I was thinking when we were talking about this last time, Roro, because I even said at one point I was like, well, why did Microsoft buy Bethesda if they're not going to be exclusive? At some point they're going to be fully exclusive. It's just a matter of when, I think, rather than if. And obviously Starfield would be kind of a no-brainer to start with that because it's a brand new IP. They never announced any platforms for it. They just teased it. And so that would kind of be a little bit of a building block to say, hey, this is our first start to exclusivity with Bethesda and Xbox. So, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Sean, you going to play some Bethesda Game Studios games finally, or are you just going to keep ignoring them?
I'm pretty sure I played Doom in a published it.
Publisher, yeah.
And Evil Within. No, I probably won't. Let's be real. I mean, my RPGs definitely tend more towards Asian JRPG, that type of stuff. It's not a story that really interests me personally. I do think it's less of a win for Xbox and more of a loss for PS5 at this point. I would only say that, though, kind of tempering expectations, because we don't really know what this game is still. I mean, I know we have descriptions and everything like this, but correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure this was announced maybe 4 or 5 years ago at this point.
I don't think it was that far, but it was a long time. It was like, man, what year was that? E3 2019, I think, right? Or maybe 2018?
I thought it was the year that God of War came out, and I think that was 2017. No, it was the following year, wasn't it? I don't know. Either way, it's been a long time, and granted, COVID delayed every single thing, made a lot of things harder to develop for and teams and all that. But it is a loss for Sony. It is expected when it comes to Microsoft shelling out all this money. I don't think it'll be the last one, but this will, in my opinion, kind of start like a chain of events, continuing at least the chain of events. Everyone wants to keep giving Sony crap for like doing all this stuff that they say is anti-gamer or not what they want, but then it's like, okay, well, obviously PS5 is outselling even PS4 right now, and it's been a very good success. A lot of people have one, and so that's going to be a huge loss not to get that game on them. So they're going to make up for it in something else that they're going to hold out, because yet again, they're number one, and it's kind of to be expected if Microsoft takes this property that could have been on their platform and no longer will be.
It was E3 2018, by the way.
Okay. So about 3 years then.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I am excited to see what Starfield may be whenever we get to see that next. It's definitely something that has my interest. But like Sean, I'm not a huge Bethesda RPG guy, but I do love space. So maybe this will be the one. So
Yes.
only a matter of time. Hopefully we get to see that soon. But moving on to the next story, Twitch is changing its prices in some places, its subscription prices, I should say. Twitch is implementing a series of pricing changes for subscriptions outside of the US, matching them to the cost of living in other countries. To make subscribing easier for those outside the US, Twitch is adjusting the price of all subscriptions, including paid and gifted, over the coming months in most countries to better align with their local cost of living. So starting tomorrow, actually. In Mexico, the cost of Twitch tomorrow. Yeah, I just realized that I was writing the wrong date on everything at work today. But in Mexico, the cost of Twitch subscription will drop from 99 pesos to 48 pesos, and 48 pesos in Canadian dollars is $2.92. I'm not sure what it is in US. Sorry, but that's pretty great for the cost of living there, obviously. And in Turkish lira, it's going from 42 try to 10 try, which is like $1 here, I think. But I thought this was really cool, a nice move from Twitch to kind of adjust their prices, not something that you see happen often. Usually it's the opposite, where it gets a little bit of a hike. So I thought this was good on them to adjust their prices for places to make it a bit more affordable in those countries. And I just thought it was a good move, so I thought to share it. Do you guys have any thoughts about it?
Yeah, I agree. I think it makes sense for them to align this closer to like, American pricing and, American economy to American pricing is not the same as, Turkish currency to Turkish pricing, which I don't know. I don't know what their currency is, but yeah, so this totally makes sense, and it's great to kind of lower that for people to have more of a chance to support their favorite creators.
Yeah, definitely. Sean,
So,
oh yeah, go for it.
Maybe I'm just stupid because I don't do Twitch or anything like that. Explain to me what subbing is, because the only thing I know from subbing is some meme for a girl that like started spouting off, if you have $5 to give to me, then you're lazy or something like that. I just remember that from a few years ago.
That was first of all, that was bad. That was horrible.
Yeah.
I still think about that sometimes. But yeah, subbing is just like like Netflix, pretty much. You pay a monthly subscription to them and you get a bunch of emotes to share in the chat, or just I think that's really the biggest thing. You get a bunch of emotes and you get to maybe communicate with the streamer a bit easier.
And sometimes,
But I could watch you regardless, right?
Yes, depending.
Okay.
Well, you could always watch, but sometimes you can't chat with them. Sometimes they do a sub-only chat.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they also, I think there's a feature that like your replays can only be watched by subs as well. I believe that's a feature as well if you choose that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not really
Yeah,
not really
too old.
losing much, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's out of my realm. So Nintendo classic games. Let's talk about it.
We will absolutely get. Wait, I think I have that on there. I don't. I will add that later. Though.
Their amount.
I meant to put the NES things that came out this week. I'm sure I'll be able to find it by the time we get there, though. But moving on to the next story, Sony makes another patent, and it's even weirder than the last one. Sony Interactive Entertainment has filed a patent for a platform that will allow users to bet on esports using physical currency, Bitcoin, or even in-game items. According to a listing on PatentScope, Sony initially filed a patent in 2019, but has only published it this month. The patent itself suggests a system where viewers of live-streamed esports events, such as fighting game tournaments, would be able to bet on the outcome of matches whilst watching the action play out in real time. The system would work via a user interface overlay that could be brought up over the stream in order for a user to place their bets. So last time we talked about Sony patents, it was to be connected to an expert, quote-unquote expert player that will be able to usher, I guess, a novice player or someone that's been stuck on a level, direct help from a player who is capable. And now we've got a new patent where Sony is not encouraging, but allowing players to bet on certain esports events, like they show fighting game tournaments. So if you're watching your favorite streamer play Street Fighter V, you can bet with other viewers who you think is going to win, is what I think is what they're showing off here. Again, it's a patent. This may never see the light of day, but if they ever wanted to do that, they just wanted to, secure that idea. But what do you guys think about this patent? And do you think we can see it? We will see it someday?
I think it makes a lot of sense because they just recently acquired, was it Evo, the fighting company, fighting tournament company?
I think it was back in January or something, if I remember right.
Yeah. So, I mean, it makes sense in that regard because, if they host the next Evo or whatever and give people the option to bet on the tournaments, I think that would be kind of interesting. And I feel like that would fill a niche for people that like that sort of thing. I'm personally not into betting and that kind of stuff, but and also it's going to depend on your local government or wherever you're at regulations, because you can't bet on that kind of stuff in Kentucky. So I wouldn't be able to do this, but that's kind of another wrench in it, I guess, that they'll have to wrestle with different government agencies and all of that to kind of approve this. So hey, it's Cover in the chat. Thank you. Welcome back, Cover.
It's a natural progression to what basically online is becoming. We know how big esports themselves have become, especially during the pandemic, when in reality for a bunch of months that was the only sport you could watch. Even actual athletes were playing themselves in games, i.e. NBA 2K was happening a lot. The only thing that I guess is a little muddling, a lot of speculation is that it's going to be cryptocurrency only, with all that hype with Dogecoin and all that stuff kind of coming up. I'm too stupid to know anything with that. If I was Sony, I would get whatever type of money you can get. I mean, who knows if cryptocurrency is here to stay in any regard. So I have a feeling it'll go global in that sense. But it'll be very interesting to see, with a lot of countries kind of going at different companies for loot boxes and stuff like that. I think that's gonna throw something else towards them if now they can legally bet on a console. And Daniel, you just mentioned as far as Kentucky, like state bases and stuff like that. Does that mean that's something that you're automatically locked out of, or can you choose a different region on your PlayStation or something like that? So I don't know. I think it's going to be very tricky, but I do think it's something that's actually going to happen.
Yeah, I completely forgot about the Evo acquiring, and now that just put it in my mind that this makes a little bit more sense to me for sure. I'm like Daniel, I'm not sure how I would use it, and I'm like also like Sean, where I have no idea how cryptocurrency works and Dogecoin and all that stuff. So it'll definitely be interesting to see. Not something that I should dabble with, knowing how terrible I have been with gambling in the Pokemon games, like I forget the Goldenrod City. I spend so much time at that Pokemon game. It's like, oh, this is bad. If I ever go to a real life casino, it would be bad. So maybe I shouldn't. Sony should not give me access to this. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But moving on to the next story, GTA is getting some improvements for PS5 and Xbox Series S. GTA 5 and GTA Online will receive PS5 and Xbox Series S enhancements version or PS5 and Xbox Series X and S versions on November 11th, and Rockstar has promised surprises related to the upcoming 20th anniversary of Grand Theft Auto 3. Announced in a press release, the new generation upgrades of both Grand Theft Auto 5 and GTA Online will be expanded and enhanced, and come with as yet unannounced new features. Updates added to GTA Online this summer will also include special benefits to take advantage of in these expanded and enhanced versions when they drop. So when I heard this, I was like, of course, more GTA. Of course, there's going to be a new enhanced version. When are they going to stop, basically, is my question.
Never.
Yeah, that's 100% correct.
Yeah, I mean they just announced also that GTA 5 is at 145 million copies sold.
Yeah.
My goodness. Where does it stop? I mean,
I don't think it does. I was thinking for the same Summer Games Fest and E3, I'm sure we'll have a topic as we get closer to E3. But I doubt we even see like GTA 6 from them this year. Yeah. I don't even know if even the next 2 years, like who knows what's really next for them. If it even is GTA 6 or maybe it's a Red Dead or something. I don't know.
The crazy part is like they're going to release this new version and they're going to sell probably another 10 million copies, like at least. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people buying this remaster. Just like people bought the Xbox One and PS4 remaster. And I think what blows my mind though, the series is at 345 million units sold. GTA 5 alone sold 145 million of that. So almost half of their entire franchise sales has come from GTA 5. Like, what?
Well, let's not forget though too, GTA 5 was the first one to come to PC natively. It took a year later.
Yeah.
But 4, I don't know if 4 ever even came out on PC because I don't remember like mods and stuff like that. So a lot of those sales could be PC as well. Just for the first time having it. I am over GTA 5, beyond it. I mean, I'm happy for their success. I truly am. GTA Online was not something I got into. I played it on the PS4 again. I don't know, maybe dabbled in like an hour or two, but that was really it, just to drive around. But I don't want to buy it again. I mean, I would love a 6, but I would also, like I said with my main gripe when it came to Red Dead Redemption, is get the control scheme figured out for 2021 or what is going on now in games. That is my biggest complaint, and obviously that's something they're not going to fix for remastered GTA 5. Sounds like a Resident Evil movie, but I won't be buying it. I'll tell you that much. At least online's free for PS Plus.
Yeah,
that is true. Which that is interesting, actually, that you mentioned that. Sorry, Roro. They're like splitting out GTA Online and GTA 5 now. So like, it's going to be available separately now, whereas it's never been like that before. So that is very interesting.
I'm also over GTA. I totally agree with Sean that the controls are one of the things that I didn't love. I for some reason I was totally fine in Red Dead. For some reason I love that game, but for some reason in GTA I just wasn't about how that game controlled. And it's just not something that I'm into. But at the same time, I would love to see what a GTA 6 looks like because of what you said. Like maybe they improve the controls, maybe it's a different setting that I would enjoy characters. Maybe I don't know, but it seems like it'll be a while until we see that. But moving on to something Sean may be happy about, the Ascent has gotten a release date after being delayed of July 29th, and it got a nice little trailer, and it looks awesome. I will let Sean take it from here. How are you feeling after this trailer and new release date?
I saw it. I am super stoked still. I mean, obviously it is my choice of Xbox exclusives at this point that I super want. Though, by the way, Xbox Game Pass gave me Code Vein like a month ago. I was really happy to try it out. It was interesting. But the Ascent, obviously, has been on my radar for so long. I'm super excited that finally it seems like we have a concrete release date, because before it was just a release window of launch window, more or less, for the Series X. But looks gorgeous. I am hopeful, Dan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's probably able to be crossplay with PC. I would assume, because I would love to get together with you guys to play this, because this is obviously my type of game. I love top-down twin stick shooters, especially from like House Marquee or something like that. But I'm glad to see other companies doing it. This will probably be the best cyberpunk game we'll ever get, and yes, I mean that as I say it. But honestly, it just looks graphically just impressive. Like, I know it seems so miniature in scale and maybe not something that everyone thinks is next gen, but I liken it to like what we got Resogun as a launch game for the PS4, and regardless of what people say, like that game was doing so many things behind the scenes that you had no idea what to expect when it came to the explosions, the little pixels and particles that was going on. This is going to have the exact same thing. I mean, this summer, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, we're going to have a crap ton to play, though. Mm-hmm. Ratchet and Clank, this, Mario Golf. I mean, this summer's looking really cool.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. And I just looked it up because I didn't know crossplay is available as long as you get the Microsoft Store version of the game. So
okay.
Yeah, that's cool. And actually, I used to give you shit for this game all the time, just as a joke, Sean. But actually, this trailer got me pretty hyped up for it. It looks freaking visually very stunning, and just the gameplay in general looks kind of cool. It's kind of a mix and mash of a couple of genres, I guess. I noticed somebody at IGN, I think, said it was like Hunter the Reckoning, I think, but it's got a little bit of
that's a
Diablo.
Good way to put that, from the PS2 Xbox, original Xbox days.
Yeah, it looks really good. I'm excited to check it out, and for sure we can hook up and play this. All of us get down with this.
I agree. This looks awesome visually. Again, I agree. It looks awesome. I would love to play with you guys as well. I'll obviously get it on PC. But yeah, it as Sean was saying, it looks the style is something that I think people underestimate how much is going on because of the top-down look and the characters are small. But as you both said, a lot is going on. It looks beautiful. There was a top-down game, twin stick shooter, that I played so much on the Vita, Helldivers. That was a game.
Helldivers is sweet.
I love that game, and this kind of reminded me of that, so I'll totally be down to give this a shot when it comes out July 29th.
Yes.
So I'm very excited for that. But moving on to our next story, Warner Bros. Interactive will reportedly be split up following merger. So this was a story that came out a little while ago, and it more impacted the TV, movie sort of things. But as it progressed, there may be some issues with the W Games side of things as well. So AT&T announced earlier today that it will split off Warner Media and merge it with Discovery in a $43 billion deal that will result in the creation of a new premier standalone global entertainment company. that will compete with the likes of Netflix and I almost said Destiny, Disney Plus. According to IGN, the deal will affect the video game scene too. Most of IGN's overview focused on the video aspect of the deal, but AT&T also told the site that Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment, but not all of it, will be sold off. No details were provided on how the company will split, but WBIE is itself a parent company of roughly a dozen studios, including NetherRealm, Monolith, Avalanche, Rocksteady, TT Games, Playdemic, and WB Game Studio in San Diego, Boston, Montreal, San Francisco, and New York. So obviously they've worked on games such as Mortal Kombat, Middle-earth, Shadow of War, Batman Arkham, and a bunch of the Lego games. So obviously with the delay of Gotham Knights.
Yes.
And I don't know what you guys think, if this affects that or it's already close to being done. They're just working on it now. But how do you guys feel about the split? Do you think it'll have effect on any of the games that have been announced?
I think it's interesting to see what happens, because they say here that some of them are going to be split up. So like, I can't even picture what that's going to look like. Like, what if like WB Montreal is split up from Rocksteady, for instance? Like, they're both making Batman games, or not Batman games, but like DC games. So like, how does that affect things? Like, if those are like tied together somehow, or but yeah, like, I don't know. This is going to be interesting, and I almost feel like AT&T is sounding like they want to get out of that business, because that's why they sold all Warner Brothers Media with Discovery to spin them off or whatever. So I'm almost wondering if AT&T is going to start to pick apart these studios and say who wants to buy these studios and start selling them, because there was that rumor last year that they were talking about selling all of their studios. So I'm starting to wonder if that's going to actually happen, and it's basically going to be a fire sale. Whoever can, pony up the most money to get each studio. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. Sean, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I don't know if it's going to affect anything. I think the delay of Gotham Knights was probably already happening regardless, especially a little bit of mixed marketing, in my opinion, too. Don't tell me a Batman game is going to be RPG or whatever. It's just an odd thought in a sense. But it makes sense from the gaming and the movie perspective, only because of like just kind of how the companies branch off. The only thing I wonder is, with the news that came out today, does that affect anything going forward? So we know we're getting a new Batman animated series with one of the original producers of the 1990s Batman series, Matt Reeves, and J.J. Abrams, of all people. And then also we're getting an Injustice animated movie, which is obviously very heavily based on the game, and then the comic that was based off the game too. And NetherRealms has kind of been in the cycle where they've been developing an Injustice and then a Mortal Kombat, then Injustice and Mortal Kombat. So we're assuming Injustice 3 is the next game from NetherRealms. So I'm just curious if this changes things, or is it still something that, hey, they still get the license to do what they want with this fighting series? Because Injustice is super, super successful, in my opinion, when it comes to fighting series. Something that can go up on the EVO stage should be considered a successful series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't affect the games too much. As you both said, only time will tell, I guess, and we'll see in the future. But yeah, I'm hoping Gotham Knights still comes soon. But I agree, I don't think it's going to affect too much, depending on how the studios get split up. But moving on to the next story, E3 2021 reveals its online portal. So organizers have now revealed the app and online portal that will allow gaming fans to attend and participate in the entirely digital event. Calling the online portal and app a key hub for the show, the Entertainment Software Association, ESA, has confirmed they'll provide access to virtual booths, hosted events, video conferencing, profile and avatar creation, online forums, and more. So I thought that was very interesting. They obviously E3 is a digital event. They're going to and they're trying to bring more interactivity since we are obviously going to be at home and not there won't be any people attending E3 in person. So they're trying, I guess they're trying their best to implement some interactivity with the fans and the show. So I thought that was a cool idea. Do you guys think you'll use it? And yeah.
Yeah, I think I will. Just in terms of like the content that we're gonna see from it, I think it'll be interesting, like seeing what those virtual booths end up being. Like, I think what Jeff Keighley always has talked about is a super cool idea about like game demos being available to the public to be able to play. That's like playable at E3. So if they did something like that, that would be cool. I don't know that that's necessarily what they're going for here, but maybe in time. And it's ironic actually that this seems to be like the best digital presentation we're probably gonna get from E3 from the last like so many years that they've done it, because they're now forced to do an all digital show. So they have to find ways to make the digital experience better, so that maybe if E3 comes back next year in person, this digital experience will still be in place, and so people who watch from home, like many of us, can get a much better experience actually than we have in the past, and kind of get, I guess, a little bit of an extra look at the games. So yeah, I think this is super cool.
Do you think you'll check this out?
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably make me follow it easier, because I'm unlike Daniel that does every year. I don't take a vacation during E3, but I still think it'd be something easier, because a lot of people are getting back to work or being forced back to work. So that'll be an easier way to keep track of it. I think IGN, after some stumbles with their app, have been a lot more present when it comes to how it works and noticing feedback and all that stuff. And I know they have a partnership with E3 this year too, so I have a feeling they'll kind of be helping with that stuff as well. And I think curation will be a lot easier. To save videos will be a lot easier too, instead of like having to go to YouTube to type in, hey, I heard of this game today, I can't remember, okay, let me watch all of Microsoft's conference to figure it out. When it's like, okay, I just want to see this, I want to pick out just Halo Infinite, which we all know is probably going to be the last bit of it. So it's like that way you can kind of skip ahead and everything.
Yeah, I think I'll take a look at it myself. The virtual booths as well are something that I am interested in to see what that may be. But yeah, I think this is great and an interesting step in the digital version of all of this. But yeah, I'm excited for E3 whenever, or well, not whenever, it's almost here.
Yeah.
I was going to say whenever that may be, but yes, it's coming soon. We're almost there.
We need some.
So I'm very excited.
We need some conference dates and times. Like,
yeah. I want to know more. Tell me more.
Yeah.
But moving on to the next story, The Last of Us is getting a little bit of a patch on PS5. Launching today, they released a really cool trailer. I loved it, announcing the updates. So once patch 1.08 for The Last of Us Part 2 is installed on your PS5, you will find a toggle in the display options that allows you to choose between a frame rate target of 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. This allows you to choose your preferred frame rate to complete the rest of enhancements that are part of the PS5 backward compatibility with PS4 games, such as enhanced resolution, faster load times, and more. They also say the team has been digging into the PS5 hardware and the possibility it unlocks since launch last year, and we're excited about what the future holds. So I thought this was awesome. I'm glad that they're implementing this on some older games. I saw some funny tweets about people saying, so Bloodborne is just never getting this, huh? It's just... when is this happening? It's just like, that's the game that we've all been waiting for. Everybody's happy about The Last of Us, but what about Bloodborne? Come on. And Horizon Zero Dawn as well was something that people wanted to see in 60 frames per second, which definitely I'd love to see that too. But yeah, I think this is awesome. The Last of Us is already such a beautiful game, so whatever Naughty Dog plans to do next with it, and even just the 60 frames per second, is definitely welcome for me.
Yeah, maybe now I'll finally do my playthrough, guys, on PS5 in 60 frames per second. Yeah,
we all know that's not happening.
Hey, maybe eventually I'll get there. My backlog's slowly getting chipped away as more games come out for it and add to my backlog, but whatever.
I just know whenever I do get a PS5, I'm definitely going to be replaying The Last of Us.
For sure. Technical masterpiece. Notice
John, are you going to go back?
Technical masterpiece.
I don't know. I honestly don't. It was very hard for me to go back to The Last of Us 1. I couldn't even do it. I just went back to try the DLC out from the beginning as opposed to the end. It's tough to say. Dana was just joking about the backlog, but like I feel that way right now, only having as minimal games as I have for the new consoles. A game that I'll talk about here in a little bit will keep me probably preoccupied for a very, very long time, given its difficulty.
Moving on to the next story. Zelda Skyward Sword's new Loftwing amiibo improves the game.
Oh.
But you gotta buy the amiibo. So Zelda and Loftwing amiibo you see above, which showed a nice little picture of the Loftwing and Zelda. Very cute. It's a very nice figure, as I said. But when tapped on your Switch, also lets players instantly skip between the surface and the sky. In the original game, that was a pretty tedious process, and befitting its age and reliance on old school Zelda design because you could only do it from save points. Buy this amiibo though, and you can do it whenever you want, even inside a dungeon. Buy this amiibo, yeah. So that's the thing that people were upset about. In the comments of this tweet, it's like they're going a very back and forth. There's a lot of people who are like, well, yeah, of course, just buy. It's only $12. Just buy the amiibo. And other people are like, I like this quote here: "Make a problem, sell the solution. That's big business." So I can't fault them. Well, I can. I don't like it. Spoiler alert. I don't like this move, but I see a lot of people going back and forth in the comments. So I was wondering what you guys thought about. Do you think it's that big of a deal, or?
Spoilers. I pre-ordered it.
Yeah. Was it for that reason, or was it just because you like the amiibo?
Not really for that reason. I mean, that's a cool little added bonus. Let's not forget, this isn't the first time that a Zelda amiibo has had in-game benefits as well. The Wolf Link amiibo could be used for the remastered of the Twilight Princess to basically help more or less skip dungeons, if I remember correctly, or help you out in dungeons itself. And you could actually use it in Breath of the Wild, so you could actually ride the wolf as Link. It's a very hard amiibo to get still to this day. Even the original Link with the P plastic stand is still impossible to find. Amiibos are like hard to find. I hate to say this, but if it goes up, you get it, or else you're never going to get it again.
Never going to get it. Yeah.
That just is the way with Amiibo. I do understand the frustration from the community, because I liken it to Wind Waker and how I can't remember what the sale was called, but the special sale that you could get by doing a couple more tasks that made everything so much quicker than in the original game. It was just kind of like an added on sale for you, but one of the most tedious and longing things to do in that game was a sail from island to island, and the fact that you could actually unlock something that could do that was great. Now, instead of unlocking, you're buying something. So I can understand how if you're not given that option to unlock, it's going to create some divisiveness.
It's guys, it's like real world microtransactions. It's in real life now. But no, in all seriousness, I feel like Nintendo I feel like they were pretty clear from the beginning of Amiibos that this is kind of what they are for, like unlocking special things in the game. And yeah, I guess this is a little bit different because this is like kind of getting around to like an annoying thing from the original game, I guess, that fans didn't like. But it is it's kind of a gray area, I guess, of whether or not it's, justifiable to do something like this. But they were pretty clear from the beginning, like the Amiibos would have special things that they would be used for. And to their credit, they have done that over the years with Amiibo. So even with Smash, I think Smash Brothers even has some integration with Amiibos as well. I can't.
You could watch your amiibos fight each other, and you could train them as your own fighters, and then bring them to your friends' Smash, and then they could play against each other.
Gotcha. So yeah, I don't know.
I remember with Breath of the Wild they had some amiibo stuff as well, where you'd bring in a Peach amiibo, like just random amiibos, and they would drop some chests in your game, and some really cool loot would come from it, like the Nintendo shirt and some Twilight Princess outfits and stuff like that. So, which I love. I love that stuff. The only problem with this one is that it's like what the comment said, like make the problem, sell the solution. It's more like a quality of life improvement that they fix from the original game. But instead of just like, hey, look, we improved this, you have to like buy the improvement that is just like something that should have been not in the original game, but like it's like fast travel. You have to buy fast travel. Like that's just an improved fast travel. Fast travel is still in the game, but like a better version of it. It's like these remasters that have come out, and it's just like the new Mass Effect stuff. Like just imagine having to buy faster loading times or something in an amiibo. That's just how I think about it. But I totally agree that like you said, from the get, amiibos have been for getting access to things that not everybody's going to get if you don't buy it. It's just the specific thing that this is kind of, irking me a bit. But Nintendo's going to Nintendo.
Yeah.
And I like the amiibo too, so maybe I will get it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. But moving on to the next story, EA is building a new team, and it's being a new studio, I should say, in Seattle. So I'm reading this from Game Industry. EA is building a new team around Kevin Stevens, Monolith Production studio head during the development of Shadow of Mordor franchise. The new studio will build open-world action-adventure games. So I thought this was cool. I'm glad there's a lot of new studios happening recently. So EA is also opening a new one. And as mentioned here, he was the guy or the head around the time of Shadow of Mordor franchise starting. So getting some more open world games from EA, I guess, is cool. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll be back in 1 second. Sorry, guys. I got to take a work call.
No, you're good.
But yeah, I don't know how you feel about the opening. What are you excited for a new open world from this specific guy?
Yeah, I think this would definitely kind of fills a niche that EA doesn't really have. I feel like they don't really have a lot of open world action adventure games. I guess you could sort of say Star Wars: The Force. Wait, no. What is the new God?
Why we're Jedi Fallen Order?
Yes, Jedi Fallen Order. I wanted to say The Force Unleashed, and I'm like, no, that's not right. Jedi Fallen Order, I feel like, is sort of like that. But I feel like this would be a kind of a perfect addition to what EA does, because they don't really have that kind of stuff. And now the important question, Roro, is this guy going to steal some code on his way out? Because famously, there was that big rumor or whatever that they stole Assassin's Creed code from Ubisoft and took it and put it in their game. Yeah, but
maybe.
But yeah, I think it'll be cool. It'll be interesting to see, and obviously they're just now opening, so it'll probably be 3 to 4 years before we see anything. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I feel like EA's been investing in a lot of studios lately. But
yeah, I am also excited to see an EA. Well, just anything, any new game from anyone. I'm excited to see what it could be, but specifically an open world game from EA sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
And and this guy has a pretty good track record with Shadow of Mordor, pretty beloved series. People love that game, so I'm excited to see what they've got cooking over there in, as you said, the next 3 years or so.
Yeah.
But moving on to the next story, another new game is in the works. The company, or I shouldn't start with that, Gearbox. There's another Gearbox franchise on the way. Take-Two has announced plans to launch a new franchise from Borderlands developer Gearbox Software. So the company said on Tuesday that it intends to release 21 games during its current fiscal year, including 4 immersive core games, 2 proven franchises, and 2 from new ones. So 2 from proven franchise and 2 from new IPs, basically, according to CEO Strauss Zelnick. So Rainy Pitchford obviously retweeted this, pretty much confirming that this is indeed true. And somebody below was like, this quickly? And he replied by saying, by quickly, you mean years of work, right? So being a little snide there, a little cheeky, but
Yeah, that's one way to put Randy Pitchford.
cheeky, yeah. But I think this is exciting. Like I remember Bloodborne when that came out, I was pretty excited for that, and I honestly played a lot more than I thought I would, which was a MOBA that came out by Gearbox that kind of failed. Battleborn, yes. Sorry. What did I say?
Bloodborne. I mean, it's close.
Close enough. But yeah, I totally see why it failed, especially coming out right around Overwatch time. Like those definitely not on the same level. But I enjoy my time with it. So seeing what Gearbox may have next that isn't Borderlands definitely excites me, because Borderlands has been something that I've tried over and over and I just can't get into. But I love the style, love the humor of the games, but just not something that I enjoy playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think?
Well, you just talking about that just made me remember a fantastic interaction I had with Randy Pitchford when the Overwatch beta came out. The Overwatch beta came out the day that Battleborn released to the public. And I went on Twitter and I was like, because Randy Pitchford tweeted that he was at the launch event or whatever for Battleborn. And I was like, well, I'm just sitting here playing Overwatch beta. And he got so mad. He responded with something like, those guys are real a-holes or something like that for releasing the same day as us. I was like, oh, okay.
My God.
But, yeah.
Randy.
Yeah. That was one of the funniest interactions with him. But anyways, yeah. Hopefully this new franchise will be more successful than Battleborn, because obviously Battleborn was kind of, I hate to say this, but like it was kind of like a poor man's Overwatch. It didn't feel, obviously it wasn't the exact same genre. It was like a more MOBA style, but it had the same feel, I guess. Like it had heroes and all of that. And I just feel like it came out at a poor time, and people saw it as competition with Overwatch, even though it wasn't directly competition with it. So hopefully this new franchise is something more original, something, that someone can't point to something else and say, hey, this is like this, like let's compare it like super close together. So yeah, I'm interested to see what this is. And it's been a while since I've liked a new Gearbox IP, really since probably Borderlands, the original Borderlands, because I wasn't a big fan of Brothers in Arms or anything like that Gearbox made before that. So I don't know, it'll be interesting.
I know you had to step away for a bit, but would you be excited for a new Gearbox IP?
I would. I know my friend Chris was hugely high on Battleborn. I mean, he even played it. I don't even think he's ever played Overwatch. I know he's played a crap ton of Battleborn before, obviously, they shut everything down, and he was very much into it. I will always say that was just the dumbest release timing to try to go up against something in a similar genre to a Blizzard game. Is not exactly the smartest thing. You don't see anybody launching any type of RTS or dungeon crawlers when StarCraft or Diablo come out. So it's like, why would you do the same thing? Their pedigree is very good. I will say, I obviously loved Borderlands 3. I put probably about 200 hours into that game, so definitely I loved it. But it'll be interesting to see what route they go down, because I don't think the Borderlands franchise is done either yet. I mean, we have the movie that's coming out at some point. They keep announcing casting every week, so I would assume they'd want to probably tie that in with some sort of new game in some sense.
Yeah, we talked about it, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago, that Gearbox is possibly making like a spin-off Borderlands game or something like that.
Yeah, so I think it would all depend for me for Gearbox is what's the gameplay and then what's the art style. Because I do really appreciate Gearbox when it comes to art style. They choose stuff that most people do not.
Yeah.
Borderlands 1 still looks pretty good, being that it was cel-shaded.
Yeah.
Cell shading obviously ages incredibly well.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. And just like your friend, I mentioned a little bit earlier that I was, for some reason, really into Battleborn when it came out as well. And I agree that the styles of the game, the art styles, always really cool. So definitely excited to see what is next. Randy Pitchford still sucks though.
Yes.
Moving on.
You just saw Daniel's heart grow.
Yes.
For you.
Moving on to the next story, Mass Effect implemented some pretty cool changes that fans are really loving. So Mass Effect Legendary Edition came out not too long ago and brings it a litany of changes to the series, some announced and some kept secret until it was in the hands of fans. So some of them are really just like some really neat things that fans of the series would appreciate, like Tali's face portrait was adjusted. The race of a specific enemy, Elenos, Haliet. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's now Turian instead of a human, which makes a lot more sense apparently. Which is what I was reading.
Yeah,
he apparently hates humans, and in the original game, he was a human, so it was a little weird. I could definitely agree with that. So that seems like a no-brainer and a really cool fix that they actually took the effort to do. Of course, I mentioned before, I have no context to most of this because I haven't played Mass Effect and I haven't played the Legendary Edition yet. But looking through all this list, it's like, this is really awesome, and I could see why people enjoy the series and have put BioWare in such a high regard, because they really do care about this franchise and their fans. So I thought this was really cool. So I thought it was awesome.
That one was my favorite row.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, like seeing the dude who hates humans and he's a human in the original game, and it was apparently a bug, which is funny.
No, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's funny. But have either jumped into Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and do you plan to?
Not yet, but I will. Sean?
Not yet, and I won't. I think we all knew that was coming.
Yeah, true.
I hope I can get to it soon, but as we keep mentioning, like the backlog just oh my god, and that is adding literally 3 games to it. So
and they are not short games.
Yeah. Oh man. And as we said, summer is going to be crazy. I'm so excited for Mario Golf and the Ascent. I don't even want to think about it. No. Moving on to the final story before we get into the topic of the show, just a little quick one. The SNES and NES Nintendo Switch Online Collection has been updated, and it's going to be updated on my birthday, May 26th. Very nice.
Wow, happy birthday in 7 days. Wow, that's next Wednesday.
Yeah. So, the podcast will be able to say, hey, that's nice. The Super NES games that will be coming on May 26th are the Super Baseball Simulator 1.000. I don't think that's 1000, but maybe it is. Maybe it was a mistake. I don't know. Caveman Ninja, also known as Joe and Mac, Magical Drop 2, and Spanky's Quest. NES will be getting a Ninja Jaja Marukan. So I am unfamiliar with literally everything on this list. But I think it's awesome that they're continuing to update this. But at the same time, there's some specific games that I would love to come to this that they just refuse to put on here.
Yeah.
But yeah, the question that I have is, 1, are you familiar with any of these and do they excite you? And 2, do you think Nintendo will ever expand to Game Boy and 64, GameCube sort of stuff on this sort of regard? Or do you think this is what they're doing to the end of the Switch life cycle?
I mean, we're to the point where my knowledge is tapped out for the NES and SNES.
Yeah.
So no, I've not played. I know Caveman, I know Toe Jam and Earl and all that stuff. I know about those. I've never played them. So I probably at some point would check those out. But honestly, I don't see at least 64 for a while, only because we know how that age has not aged well. We did get, obviously, Mario 64 on Super Mario 3D All-Stars. So that was probably one of the biggest things that everybody wants. Everybody loves to think that they want to go back to Mario Kart 64. No, you don't. play Mario Kart 8. Like, trust me, you don't want to go back to that. It's not what you think it is. If you want to go back to Mario Kart, go back to Double Dash. But what we really need to get back into, and it's a huge thing that's, like, really missing from their, like, epitaph of stuff, is Game Boy Advance. Like, that's where they need to kind of come. It's got so many good games. It's got my favorite Final Fantasy as far as Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. Like, there's just so many good games on that. They even figured out a way to make Tony Hawk Pro Skater work on a Game Boy game, which was really hard to do, obviously. I mean, hell, even during the PS4 days, early on, they couldn't figure out how to make Tony Hawk 5 work. So, I mean, that's really the direction I want them to go into. I don't need 64 and GameCube at this point. I want Advance.
Yeah, I feel like for the most part, I agree. And 9 times out of 10, I always tell people, like, I always want to leave my favorite gaming memories in my past because, like, nostalgia is a hell of a thing. You think, like, it's so good back then when you're playing it then, but then, like, now is completely different standards. So it really isn't, the same experience playing it now than it was back then. So I kind of agree just to kind of leave that stuff alone. But at the same time, there's people out there that love playing retro stuff, so I'm sure there's a lot of demand for people to go back and play a lot of that stuff. I would love to see GoldenEye come back, but I don't think that'll ever happen because of licensing issues. But yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I'm down to play Spanky's Quest. I mean,
just by the name alone.
Yeah, I mean,
I think we all need to do that separately in our bedrooms.
Oh,
man,
no. God.
But yeah, I totally agree with Sean with the Game Boy Advance thing. I mentioned it recently that I literally bought a cheap DS that only plays Game Boy games so I can go back to some that I've missed, some that I've loved, like Minish Cap. I love that game. Golden Sun, I never got to play. But yeah, there's a lot of great Game Boy Advance games that I would love to just have access to on the Switch. That would be awesome. But yeah, it's a shame, but I totally agree that I don't think they'll go the extra mile with N64, especially with them probably just releasing a remaster of the hits if they wanted to. But moving on to what we have been playing. Daniel, what have you been playing?
I've actually been playing a new game. I mean, it's a miracle. Resident Evil Village. I've been playing quite a bit. And actually, the game is not as long as I thought it would be. I know a lot of people like set expectations and were like, hey, this is about the same as Resident Evil 7, but I was just hoping it would be a little longer. But yeah, I think I'm actually at the close to the end. I'm about seven hours in roughly. I've been playing it over the last week or so. And yeah, very much loving it. And of course, I start talking and the dog has to play with his toy now. But yeah, I really enjoyed it and everything I've played so far. And Roro, I was going to suggest you to get into it because it's not so scary in the beginning. Like the first few parts aren't too scary. Even like
Stressful, not scary.
Stressful, yes. It is very tense and like stressful, but not ever scary in the beginning parts. And then I got to a certain part later on and I was like, yeah, no. No, yeah, it was legitimately terrifying. Like, I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys, but just in general, like the noise that this thing was making made me cry myself to sleep that night. It was very terrifying. So, Sean, I can't wait till you get to that part because
I was gonna say I'm using my PS5 headset with all that stuff, and all the music makes it so much more tense. Like, especially in the castle, which I don't think that's too big of a spoiler to know that you go into a castle because that's pretty much what we've seen all along. But there's an area in the castle that is a little damp, and to have all the water movements in your ear and you looking everywhere for you is incredibly stressful. Lady Damaskira is stressful. Her daughters are stressful. It is very satisfying when you put them all down. I will say that you kind of breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. But I agree with your summation so far, Daniel. I'm really liking it. I think I'm actually liking it a little bit more than Resident Evil 7 at the moment. Yeah. I kind of like the weird open world, at least with the village part for it. I like that that's kind of, in a way, a new chapter for them, at least in the first-person version of it. But so far, I am really liking it. I plan on continuing to play it a little bit tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully by next podcast I'll have it finished and can report back. But yeah, I agree with you, Sean. I think I do like it a little bit more than 7 also.
Are you collecting anything?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm literally I'm 100%ing everything, and normally I don't do that kind of stuff, but like when I'm in my map and I see that red area, I'm like, no,
Yep.
I need this blue. It has to be blue.
The goats are the hardest thing so far
Yeah.
to figure out where the heck they are.
Yeah, I'm trying to find actually like this. I can't remember. One of the recipes calls for like a pristine like piece of meat or something. I haven't gotten that yet. I don't know if it's like not till the end of the game or what, but I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything like that yet. I just found out that the meat was upgradable for your health, and I accidentally sold meat,
Yeah.
so I screwed up there.
Yeah, bad. Don't sell it. Don't sell it.
Oh man. So I'm assuming, Sean, Resident Evil is what you've been playing as well?
That and actually another game too, Returnal. I am really liking Returnal. That's the game that I was talking about. That's going to keep me pretty much going for hours because holy crap, is that game hard and frustrating, but so freaking magical and beautiful what the PS5 can really do, not to mention what the controller can really do. The fact that you technically get an extra button when it comes to holding your triggers now, because it's like considered your alt fire, and you know how it gives that little bit of resistance.
Yep.
That gives you a different type of firing to do. On the controller itself, when you're out in the rain, and you can really feel it in the first world, you feel your controller vibrating to the raindrops.
Wow.
Which is insane to feel. But it is very hard. Like even for me that loves kind of roguelite experiences. I got to the second boss, had 2 more shots on him, and died. So there went 2.5 hours of progress for me. And then got shot back to the beginning with all new stuff. So that part, I do see where one of the main gripes is the runs last way too long, because that's only the second level for me. And I think there's at least 7 areas, if I remember reading correctly. And I still have yet to even get like the main piece, which is kind of like a Samus Aran whip, more or less, to help me traverse areas. And I can only imagine how much more longer the game gets. I've seen people have like 5-6 hour runs get wiped.
Oh no.
So
See, that's why I would never like to play that game, because it's just that would drive me insane.
the arcadiness though is what makes you come back to do a little bit better each time, to get better at certain enemies. Like to kind of figure out how they shoot, where you can dodge. I will say, like, your mobility, your walking is faster than most games running. And then your running is even more insane. And I couldn't, besides like you loading in each run for like 5 seconds, there's no load times for anything. It's all just seamless. Like you traverse from literally rain jungle to desert in maybe half a second. And there's nothing that like takes time or any of that stuff. So it is incredibly fast, utilizes the PS5, and good for House Marquee for, I think, really making essentially a AAA arcade shooter, kind of.
Yeah.
Definitely. But yeah, everything about both of those games sounds good, but also terrifying for literally both of them. I don't know if I'll ever play them, but I'm glad that you guys are enjoying them. And yeah, I won't spend too much time on what I'm playing, because I'm sure you guys can guess. It's more Destiny.
What? You're playing Destiny?
I know.
First off, you're the last person to judge anyone on it, Mr. Master Chief.
That's fair. That's fair.
But basically, this week, yesterday, they introduced another override map. So basically, that's the seasonal activity. So now we have a moon variant of it. And the most exciting thing that I have to report is that the Vault of Glass returns on Saturday. Nice. I may not be able to play it day one, but I am so excited to finally jump back into it, because it's one of my favorite raids. It's the first raid to ever appear in Destiny, and it's being revisited. So I'm very excited for that.
Is that the one on Destiny 1?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's something I played. Okay. I know this. I know this.
I know this. Yeah. So it's coming back, and I'm very excited for that. So yeah, hopefully I'll be able to report by next Wednesday that I've at least attempted it. But yeah, very excited about that. But moving on, finally, to the topic of the show, Summer Games Fest has been announced, and there's going to be a kickoff live starting June 10th. So this is going to be a little bit different than it was last year, at least the first day, June 10th, which includes 20 or 30 games. He also says a lot of live service games are participating. And he says he thinks there are going to be some big announcements and some long-awaited things. He also wanted to mention to not get there, to have realistic expectations, specifically to the question of Elden Ring being there. And he was like, whoa, slow down. We've got some cool stuff, but not Elden Ring cool stuff. Yeah. But he also showed off a picture of all the 2021 partners that include companies such as 2K, Amazon Games, Annapurna, Blizzard, EA, MiHoYo, who makes Genshin Impact, Sega, Xbox, and the most notable one to me is PlayStation, because they are not included at E3, but they are included at Summer Games Fest. So it's going to be interesting to see what they have to offer.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's expecting to show off a couple of world premieres and obviously some updates to probably games that we've heard of before. But yeah, I think this is awesome to have a show that is pretty much, as he says here, similar to the Game Awards, to kind of make it a little bit more congested instead of spread out, which was a complaint or feedback that a lot of watchers had last year, he mentions in the article. But yeah, what are your guys' hype level for the kickoff of technically of E3, but also Summer Games Fest? And
yeah, I think this is exciting, and of course it has to start when I'm on vacation. That's freaking my luck that I'm in the middle of nowhere. Well, I'm in North Carolina, and they decided to do this, so I can't react at home. But
great job, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. But yeah, I think that Jeff's trying to temper our expectations with this original, this first event that he's having on June 10th. It sounds like it's just going to be like some smaller reveals, and it's not going to be like a Game Awards level event like that. It's not going to have anything huge, I don't think, and he's trying to set expectations as such. But also, like, Summer Games Fest also overlaps with like E3, and I think Ubisoft's event is included in that, Xbox's event at E3, whatever, which we don't have dates for that yet. Like, could we freaking get a date? I want a date for that. Yeah, I hope that that's not while I'm on vacation, because I'd like to be here to react to it, but I don't know if I'll be here. So yeah, I just want to get all these dates and see what happens, and hopefully Jeff gives us some scoops this summer.
The PlayStation thing is surprising to me, only because they've, for the last 2 years, have been kind of doing their own thing for the most part. Again, I would say don't expect them to show God of War Ragnarok trailer or something like that would light the world on fire. I think, if anything, that they would probably show is maybe something to do with Horizon. That's obviously a known quantity. We've already seen as far as the CGI trailer for it, possibly just another one. I still don't think that's games coming out until next spring, next summer, because we know that Sony doesn't follow the mantra that they have to have a fall game anymore. They haven't since really the Order 1886. And we know that didn't perform that well anyways. So my guess is they probably won't have any type of fall announcements or anything like that. It is very close to E3, which kind of makes me think this is going to be more for smaller games, or to get kind of weird announcements out of the way. Like you mentioned Genshin Impact. I know it's a popular game, but that's not something you really need to hear news about at E3. Because who cares? If you're not playing it, you're not probably going to be playing it. People that are playing that game are already interested at this point.
Well, yeah. Remember, Summer Games Fest doesn't necessarily tie to E3 either, and it could be like multiple months, because like last year Jeff had it going over multiple months and covered all these events. So really what he could just be saying is whenever PlayStation holds their state of play, like whether it's June or July or whatever, I'm not sure what their date's going to be for that, that's going to be included in his Summer Games Fest. I guarantee that's why Sony's PlayStation's on there, because he's going to market that as Summer Games Fest as part of the whole deal.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably get that in July after Ratchet and Clank's been released, more than likely. Then.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I totally see where you guys are coming from with the PlayStation thing. That maybe he just knows, there's going to be a state of play later on, so let's just slap the PlayStation logo on there and say that they're part of Summer Games Fest. He does say most of the companies are involved with the kickoff with some of the content, but he also does say some of them will have their own events and will save some big announcements for their own little events. So, like Sean said, don't expect God of War to be at the kickoff. Maybe they will talk about it at their state of play. But yeah, I'm definitely excited to have this specifically because, as he said last year, some of the feedback that he got was that it was so spread out and it was kind of confusing. And he does address the confusion as well, saying like, what is E3 and what is Summer Games Fest? Like, what is this like? Just a glorified calendar? And last year it did kind of feel like that, where he was just kind of co-streaming the other events. So I'm definitely excited for a quote unquote official kickoff to this whole Summer Games Fest, where it's a little bit more structured. But I'll just end it off by asking, what is the biggest thing that you think we can expect here, or is it really just going to be some live service stuff? I think Horizon Zero. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I think Horizon Zero Dawn is something that we might see as well. I saw Sega there, and I'm just so ready for a new Sonic game, specifically a 3D one. I doubt it, but it's been so long. So I was hoping that maybe they'll say something there, but
I wouldn't be surprised if we see something Nintendo at this kickoff. Wait, was Nintendo on that list?
I don't remember Nintendo being part of that list.
Well, that's surprising.
No.
That's very surprising because normally Jeff has something from them, so that's interesting. Okay, well, never mind.
I'm hopeful, and I know they weren't announced as a partnership, but it was by one of the developers at Team Cherry about Hollow Knight Silk Song, maybe getting an update through them, because E3, they already have tempered expectations, saying they're not going to have anything to update on us. And obviously, that's a huge game that I'm looking forward to as a sequel of Hollow Knight. And I would hope maybe in Summer Games, that's where we kind of get that, since obviously it's not coming for me. It's just it's a sequel that I desperately want.
I honestly can't think of something that would even... Oh, I know what, guys. This needs to be at the kickoff. Cuphead DLC.
Yes. I was going to say that.
Oh.
Nice.
Are they just making a new game at this point?
It better be.
Might as well just do what Team Cherry did. Even though Team Cherry promised us one more DLC where you got to play as a different character, they just decided to turn it into a sequel. I don't have any issues with another Cuphead game.
Yeah.
Well, as most of the stories on here, we'll just have to wait and see. And we won't have to wait much longer. June 10th is right around the corner, and so is E3.
Yes.
But until then, guys, do you have anything else to add before we sign off?
So, with us being very close to E3, what do you guys think about E3 predictions next week?
Ooh.
Although, I don't know if you'll be here, Roro. If it's your birthday, I don't know that you want to be on the podcast.
Yeah. I honestly don't know what I'm even doing for my birthday.
All right.
But I'll definitely let you know.
All right.
Microsoft and Sony are merging. That's my prediction.
God. Oh, jeez.
But yeah, thank you guys so much. Hopefully, maybe we'll have some E3 predictions next week or the week after. But thank you again, everyone, for joining us both live and on YouTube and on Twitch, as well as podcast services everywhere, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, and Stitcher. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Sean. I'm Rashan. And until next time, later will be greater.
Much love.
Deuces.
I was literally waiting